Hold on, it's loading over to YouTube. So we're getting ready to start.
All right.
All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Foundation of Financial Warfare. Okay. Well, we're going to uncover the battle happening over your money, your mind, and your future. And tonight we have two dynamic keynote speakers. Dr. Alexander Bedell, renowned financial strategist and senior mortgage loan officer. Hold on one second. Can you hear
Oh,
me?
yeah, I can hear you good. You actually sound fabulous.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and talk that over again. I'm sorry. So tonight
Okay.
we have two dynamic keynote speakers, Dr. Alexander Bedell, renowned financial strategist and senior mortgage loan officer, also the president of the residential and commercial division of Soul Community Federal Credit Union in Atlanta, Georgia. He's going to offer some deep insight into the current state of world markets, trade wars, and mortgage lending systems. And we also have another keynote speaker, Minister Bathsheba Francis, spiritual leader and prophetic voice, addressing the hidden warfare behind financial oppression. She is also the director of the origination department at Soul Community Federal Credit Union. She will also activate divine principles to reclaim your economic destiny. So they are both here today to unpack the hidden forces shaping the economy and the spiritual attacks keeping people stuck, and how tariffs, inflation, and policy are affecting our housing market and American wealth. So let's start with the bigger picture.
Mhm.
All right. All right. And so we're going to open the floor right here for you, Dr. Bedell. What exactly is financial warfare and how does it show up in the daily lives of Americans?
Well, first, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity, and I'd like to give just a moment to just tell a little bit about our background and why we wanted to put on a financial warfare series. And we're going to speak from a couple different angles. And one of the angles that we'll speak on is why financial warfare, why spiritual warfare, and we believe they're symbolic because whatever you do in the real, I'll say in this world, and I'll let Minister Bathsheba expand on how it affects us in our spiritual world. But I am a man of God, and everything I do, I want to put God first. And when we speak about a financial warfare, I just, as the show started, what I wanted to do was start off by saying I want to read the definition of financial warfare and I want you as well as the listeners to figure out if they identify with it or what part of the financial warfare would they fall on. And by definition, financial warfare involves using financial tools and systems to destabilize or weaken an opponent, often a nation, without resorting to conventional military conflict. So if you're part of a population in America that that doesn't have access to capital, that is irregularly treated in the financial world, you are a victim of financial warfare. And I want to start by showing a short little video that I put together on financial warfare. If I can share my screen, would that be okay, ladies?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, here we go.
Alex, you might want to
Turn the
start the
volume
video
up.
again. We can't hear the
Turn the
sound.
volume up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I can't hear the sound.
Okay, because I can tell you from where I'm sitting at, the sound sounds fabulous. It really does. What I'll do is let's see. And again, I'm probably not the most technical
You
person.
have to,
Please
yeah,
bear with me while I
when
jump
you
around.
stop,
Let me know if you
yeah,
hear the sound here.
stop, stop sharing,
Okay.
and then when you
Well,
share
at this
again,
point, and again, this is part of financial warfare.
I was about
This
to
is
say.
our technology warfare series. But
no,
we're
stop
gonna
sharing and then
get
share
past
again, and
that.
then,
And
okay.
ultimately, so without a video, what the video really displays is it tells us that by my background being in financial services for over 20 years and looking at the markets at a couple different levels, from a level of consumer finance to commercial finance, I noticed that there is a restriction in capital, and it's restricted for a couple different reasons. A lot of things have changed over the last 6 months, or even I would say over the last 5 months, because we have a new president that's only been in office for 5 months, but it almost seems like a year with the changes that are happening in our economy, especially with the threat of tariffs. So with the threat of tariffs, it's just a tool that's used in our financial warfare that I wanted to just shed a little bit of light on what are some of the things that affect us in our economy and how we can make a change to it.
Awesome. Can you stop sharing your screen so we can get you in the full picture, please, too, as well? I want to be able to see you when you're talking, please. Can
Pardon
you
me?
hear me okay?
I can
Can
hear you
you
fine.
stop sharing and then so we can see your full face?
Oh,
So stop sharing your screen. I can't see your full face. It's still like just black screen to everybody. There you go.
okay.
Okay. All
And
right,
you
no
know
worries.
what? You guys just missed my best smiles. I had the best smiles going on when I was speaking. So I'll try to recapture that moment for us.
Okay. Well, being that we are under financial warfare, how can we protect ourselves from inflation, rising interest rates, and market manipulation?
Well, when you said, how do we protect ourselves? And it's hard to protect yourself in an environment that you have no control of. So, in the best thing that we can do, the best form of protection that we can have is through education and understanding the changes that are happening around us. And we find ourselves in situations where we might have a equity situation. There's when we look at the markets and we say money matters, let me tell you why money matters. Um, it was a time in America where money didn't matter as much. And that was a time when uh, you would work with your hands, and I would do some work, and do some work for you, you do some work for me. We had a bartering system, and eventually we exchanged our bartering system with a billing system. Now everything evolves with money. Your health is evolved with money, or is affected by money. Your ability to educate your children is evolved with money. Your ability to have the security that you want in your home involves money. So money matters at a different stage. So when we're going to revert back to how do we protect ourselves, we protect ourselves with educating our families in environments like this, to where we're going to talk about how to make your largest investment. We'll talk about how to protect your largest investment. And I'm going to unapologetically state that my background is in residential mortgages. And with what we're going to speak about, that's the largest item an individual is going to purchase in their life, besides some of the commercial deals that we're doing with Greenlight Commercial, because we specialize in doing deals over $10 million. So we see all spectrums of financial services. So the best way, and the short answer is, we're going to protect ourselves from inflation by educating ourselves on why inflation is happening, and through that education of why it's happening, we can circumvent some of the things in our personal lives to absorb this inflation that's going to happen.
Yes, I definitely agree. And I think that education is definitely a part, financial literacy. So would you say in this current financial system, is it built to create wealth for American, like for the masses, or do you think that it's to maintain control?
I think it's a little bit of neither and both at the same time,
Okay.
because it's we live in a country where our political policies are made for everyone, knowing that and our legislators, we like to believe that we're going to elect officials that's going to have our best interests at heart. And by them creating laws, they're making laws for a country built of individuals. So, when we look at one particular law might be for one segment of the population that, when we say, the top 5%, the top 1%, and the middle class, lower middle class, uh, there's laws that protect individuals under the medium income, but in reality, there is really it all depends. So the short answer, it all depends on where you are financially and how you're going to, because the good part about um, political policy or government policy is you're not bound in one particular segment. You're only bound by what you know and what you lack to educate yourself about to break out of that segment. So the short answer is no. It's not set up for individuals, and we have to have that same mindset to where um, these policies aren't personal. They're not attacked against me as an individual. This is, we'll go back and a couple hundred years. Ye who has the gold makes the rules. And if we don't have the goal, we're not making the rules. But the goal that we have from a individual standpoint, we've got the ability to vote our legislators in and vote our legislators out. We have the ability to be involved. And a lot of our involvement in legislation is, because we're not aware. So we like to use platforms like this to where we can break down some complicated issues that are happening on a congressional level just in real short terms where people understand it. So that's one of the purposes why we wanted to have a financial warfare segment.
Absolutely, absolutely. Hey, Mr. Mishiva Francis, how are you doing this evening? Can you hear me okay? Unmute your unmute.
I'm doing wonderful. And yourself?
Well, I'm doing well. Thank you for coming this evening. So let me ask you a little bit about the spiritual warfare aspect of what we're going through. How do you think our relationship, like as Americans with money, is tied to spiritual principles and beliefs?
Well, absolutely. I definitely do think that what our money system is tied to spiritual beliefs. Why? Because and I love the title of the seminar that we're doing, the webinar that we're doing, simply because people are going through life like they're in the matrix. They're not realizing that we are at war every single day. And if you don't equip yourself with some basic things, then you're just going to run amok. The devil's going to just have its way with you. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? So you have to equip yourself. This is not a day where you can just go by meaninglessly and not equip yourself to battle, to not only battle
Hmm.
but to survive. It's
Hmm.
very difficult in this day and time. Things are uncertain. Fear is rampant. They're pushing fear in TV. They're pushing fear, just on the radio waves. It's all around us. And so, if we don't have or tap into a source that's higher than what we are and has more control than what we have, you're not going to be safe. You're not
Yeah.
going to be safe. You're not going to feel the safety, and you're just going to not be in control. And it's not that you have to be in control all the time, but you must equip yourself and be ready for the battle.
Right, exactly. And I know what we're dealing like with a lot of statistics and things like the way that the economy is moving so quickly as far as like people getting further and like they're working themselves to death pretty much trying to keep up with inflation. So do you think that the poverty line, do you believe that poverty or financial struggle is a spiritual attack?
Yes and no, right? Simply because when you're going through things, it's not always an attack from Satan. It's not always that situation. You know, in life there's always seasons. There's always ebbs and flows. There's always winter and summer. So this is summer for us right now, right? And even though this is a physical summer in the natural world, people can even in the summertime be in a winter per se, right? Because in the summer is a time when you're supposed to sow, right? There's a simple principle. It's called reaping and sowing. It's called harvest time, you know, and you have these seasons. And if you are not aware of what season you're personally in, then you're going to be in trouble, right?
Yeah.
Because you're going to be fighting against the situation when you should be resting, right? You're sitting there working yourself to death.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
the best way to know what season you're in is to kind of see what's happening in your life. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so is there opportunities there for you, right? So if God is presenting the opportunities for you, then that means that you're in sowing season. That means it's time for you to work. Harvest time, people think harvest, oh, I can't wait for the harvest. It's going to be rest time, and it's not. Harvest
Mm-hmm.
time is a time where you're working, you're plucking, you're go ahead in the seeds that you've sown in the spring, right? This is the time for you to work and pluck those up and get everything that you sown for, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is my spring, right? So as it is my spring, this time I'm planting seeds here. You know, I'm planting seeds at Soul
Mm-hmm.
Community Federal Credit Union. You know what I'm saying? I'm planting seeds with my real estate agents because as profession, I'm a mortgage broker, right? So what
Mm-hmm.
I do as a mortgage broker, I help people and I have relationships with realtors and I have relationships with other brokers and banks and things of that nature. And so if you recognize what time that you're in, then you can act accordingly to the time that you're in.
I definitely agree with that. Because you can see it through either way you lens. You can see it as despair, or you can see it as an opportunity to rise above, right? So for the
Absolutely.
people that are watching this, and like I said, I know there's a lot of them. They're just like, I'm tired of work. I'm so tired. I work 12, 15 hours. I can't, I don't have time to think about that. How can they spiritually align, or how can we all as Americans spiritually align ourselves to receive and manage abundance? Let's not even talk about poverty. How can we receive and manage abundance?
What I'll tell you is that God prepares you for every season that you're in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the best way to stay connected to God is through prayer, right?
Amen.
Absolutely.
Jesus left the earth and he left us the Holy Spirit. So that Holy Spirit is in you and he's guiding you every single day, right? And if you're not tapping into that and making yourself and making your being, right, aware of and being able to use your ears to hear by practicing daily through prayer and studying and those things, then you're gonna think it's, oh, I thought this or I thought that, but it's the Holy Spirit whispering to you what you should do. You know what I'm saying? It's the Holy
Mm-hmm.
Spirit, in you, reminding you of, okay, well, when this happens, then you need to do this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you get this opportunity, it'll come to your recollection, okay, oh, this is how I can seize the day to take advantage of this situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it all comes from practicing. You can't jump in there one day and think, oh, well, now I've conquered it. Nope. This is daily practice. This is daily doing the things right every single day, or using the steps to prepare yourself even to enter the day, right? Because as
Mm-hmm.
soon as you open your eyes, your phone is ringing and it's trying to get your
Mm-hmm.
attention. Soon as you
Yeah.
open your eyes, there's music coming in and there's people in your environment that are bringing their ideas and their needs and their wants. But if you don't know what the Father wants, then what are you doing?
Exactly.
It's not going to be to your best advantage.
I definitely agree with that.
Hey,
That
Brenda,
you
can I
brought out some
piggyback on
great
that?
point.
Absolutely, Alex.
That really resonates for me because when I think about riches, I would say, a year ago or maybe even 2 years ago, I would qualify with, okay, I need to get to, seven figures. I need to do this. And it had a value to it. And like I said in the beginning, money matters. But you know what matters more is your attitude towards life. And your attitude towards life is directly, well, for me personally, it's been gratifying because of my relationship with God. And now I I appreciate, matter of fact, spiritually, I'm richer than I ever been before in my life. So with that being said, from the real world, I've got so much spiritual, help that I feel like I can conquer anything in this world because I'm dealing with the creator of this world. And if he can create
Yes.
this world, he can create any there's not a situation that I'm going to find myself in this world that he hasn't articulated or that he can't change. So, that's why, when I think about spiritual warfare, um, who goes to battle without any armor? How could you, be in knowing that, there's God, knowing that there's a devil, and you're not, aligning yourself with the source that can save you, you know, and, like when I think about church, they say, are you saved? You know, saved from what? you know, Obviously you have to be saved from something. There's something out there, like when I think about being saved, you know, I'm going to save you from danger. If there's danger out there to where, when you go to church, you say you saved, how could you not acknowledge how powerful the spiritual warfare can be? And I just wanted to throw that in there because um, when I think about myself and I think about riches and I think about, the greatness of God, how could we not say that we're not rich beyond this world?
I definitely agree. I definitely agree. So let's talk a little bit more about Dr. Bedell about the global economy right now, and especially these world tariffs, right? Because everybody's talking about tariffs this and tariffs that, right? So can you explain how the current world tariffs are affecting U.S. imports, prices, and consumer goods?
Absolutely. I speak with a couple of different groups, even some of my God groups, and one of the things that was really shocking to me, well, not really shocking, it was an opportunity because I had a friend of mine tell me he doesn't care about tariffs, and I asked the question, "Do you know what a tariff is?" To care about it, because you can't care about something you don't know about. So,
Hmm.
as I answer this question, the first thing I want to explain is what is a tariff and how does it affect us individually or collectively? A tariff is a tax or levy that's placed on a goods coming into America or goods going out of America. And that's why, what we hear about these levies that's placed on China, that's placed on these different countries, Japan. Now we look at how these tariffs affect us individually, because let's look at our automakers. Our automakers, we've got the big three in Detroit, and we also have, a lot of manufacturers that work in America, and you have a major automotive manufacturer that puts a plant in Mexico, and I'm not, I would just say in a third world country. Well, they put that plant in that third world country because the labor laws are cheaper and they can produce that same item in another country and then import it into America. And when they import it into America, the corporate or the shareholders would see more profit, which justifies them spending that money over there. Now, what happens with what's happened in America for decades that has been identified, I would say more vocally with this administration is the tariffs that have been placed on America, and I'll use Canada from my studies. Canada imports or exports a lot of goods into America. We export a fraction into Canada, and the fraction that we're looking at, who benefits more? Does Canada benefit more from American tariffs, or do we? Well, when we place these tariffs on Canada, now we're saying that we've got an unfair relationship.
Mhm.
And with that unfair relationship, the tariffs are going to balance it out. Well, obviously, if you've been paying, 3 cents, for the last 30 years, and now they're saying, okay, now you're going to pay $1 because, we haven't taxed you over the last 20 years, it's going to cause, a frenzy in the economy. My belief is that through that frenzy in the economy, it's going to eventually benefit everyone because now those companies that are manufacturing goods overseas, they'll see the benefit of bringing it back to America. For instance, Apple. Apple has, designed Apple phones in China for the last, 20 years. Apple just announced that they're going to build a $150 million facility in Texas. Why did they do that? Because of tariffs. So I believe tariffs indirectly is going to bring jobs back to America, but I think there's a mannerism in which it can be communicated a lot better for just the average people to understand it, and especially ones that are going to be affected by it. Tariffs are going to put a strain on businesses to where they're not going to hire as many people because they don't know the cost of their goods. You're not going to see as many raises, but there's give and take with tariffs on the global economy.
Great, great. So what industries, I know you brought up Apple and things like that. What industries in the US are most vulnerable to international tariffs?
Oh, I'll say the industry that controls America is the housing industry.
Oh, yeah.
The housing industry, well, there's two markets, the housing industry and automotive, and I got a background in love for both of them. But from a housing perspective, when a house is sold, a lot of jobs were formed in that process. The realtor, the broker, the builder who built the roof, the electrician, the plumber, the individual who brought those PVC pipes in, the truck that drove that concrete in, the escalator who cleared that land. So there's a lot of individuals involved in just the sale of a house. So when we talk about, tariffs and how they're affecting us, it's going to affect everybody. And ultimately, when you look at the history of America, America failed when we had a housing crisis. And every time there is a crisis, historically, it's, surrounded around housing. The crisis of 2008, 1934, the Great Depression, housing. So when I think about who is it going to affect most, when it affects housing, that's when there's going to be changes in America.
Okay. So speaking of the mortgages and housing market, do you think it's a good time for people to buy a home right now? Is it a good time or should people wait?
Well, people ask me that all the time. And that's the end of I'm
I
gonna
know
say
all
this.
of
I'm gonna give you the politically correct answer. Is now the right time to buy a house if you live in an apartment? Yes.
Yes.
I'll say the affirmative. Now is always a great time if you live in an apartment to buy a house.
Yeah.
If you're in a position where you're looking to build generational wealth for your family, the answer is yes. If you're, so you've got so many reasons why I can say with conviction that now is always the time to buy a home. Now, is there, better financial times to buy a house based on some conditions that you can't control? Sure. But one thing I will say, it all depends. If you're an individual and you need a house, yes. If you're an investor, investors buy houses regardless of the market. Because if your strategy is to purchase a home to rent it, and let's say the value of a home is $200,000, the market, and let's say the value of the home is $200,000 and you're renting it for $2,000 a month. Well, guess what happens when the market changes? Well, when the market changes, the value of that house might drop down to $150,000. But where does your rent drop to? It doesn't.
Nowhere.
It doesn't change. So
It goes
investors,
up.
9 times out of 10, it goes up. So from an investor standpoint, They want to buy a property because they know that their investment is protected because, just like that house that dropped $50,000. Well, one thing is going to change in the market, with the when the neighborhoods change, the value of your homes changes because that's a term that we use in real estate called comps. When you got, hey, and matter of fact, not only in comps, but it also works with your friends and the people around you. If you're around 10 people, 10 broke people, you're going to be the 11. If you're around, 10 rich people, you're going to be the 11. If you're in a neighborhood where the properties are going up, your property is going to go up. And now we'll jump into a little bit later on the value of the equity in your home and how you can utilize this as a tool to circumvent any inflation or any issues that can cause you or your family diverse situations.
Awesome, awesome. So being there what it said, it's always a good time to buy a house, right? So what should borrowers know about refinancing in this market though for the current already homeowners? What should they know about refinancing?
Well, first they should know about what do you want, you have to and I'm going to go back to Minister Francis. When you talk about praying, you have to pray with intensity and purpose. You have to refinance with purpose. What are you going to do? Because there's federal laws that protect consumers because as a mortgage broker or lender, we cannot finance or refinance an individual's property unless it's a benefit to the borrower. And when we say benefit to the borrower, we ask the questions. If you want to refinance your house, are you doing it to pay off debt? Are you doing it to renovate your home? So we like to dive in to the reasons why. Now, from an interest rate standpoint, I had an individual today that called and he wanted to refinance his house. And because the property values in his neighborhood had gone up so much, he's got so much equity in his house that he was like, I want to pull some of my equity out. I want to pay down my debt, and paying down his debt, pay off his car, increase his credit score so he can, later turn around and, work on a commercial loan. And the problem that he ran into was one of the best problems I've seen in the mortgage industry. I told him if I was in his situation, I would never refinance my house. He's got a 2% interest rate. At a two now, when interest rates drop down to 2% and you got a really low interest rate, it's difficult to trade out of that low interest rate just to pull money out of your house. So, with the mortgage industry, we've got so many different products. So in his scenario, rather than refinance this great rate that he has, we're going to put in place a home equity line of credit. So he keeps his low rate and he needed $150,000. And with that $150,000 on a line of credit, you're only paying for the amount that you're using. So I believe that was the best case scenario for him. So when I speak to consumers and they're thinking about doing a refinance, we just got to peel back a couple layers of the onion to make sure what we're doing is in the best interest of our borrowers. That's the best answer.
I definitely agree.
Can I piggyback on that one? Because I had a client last week. He's actually he owns a condo here in Atlanta, and he's actually working in New York, right? And he was actually currently at an interest rate of a 6.5. Interest rates have been so up and down lately, right? One day it's 7, one day it's 6, one day it's 6.4. It's just been a little bit turbulent, but that's what's going on in our economy today, right? What I always tell people is the only people that really benefit from up and down rates dropping, are people who are already homeowners. He had told me that was his desire. His monthly mortgage was extremely high. And what I was able to do was save him $300 per month by switching him from a conventional loan to an FHA loan. He's saving $300 per month. And on top of that, he was able to capitalize on a low interest rate that was only low for 3 days.
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
Right?
Yeah.
I can tell you this. I can use an extra $3,600 a year.
Why not? Right? Why not? You're paying all this money in condo fees, and then you want to go ahead and reduce your mortgage. That was a win-win for my customer. Now, how much did I save him in the interest rate? I would say not even a full point. I didn't save him very much in the interest rate, but the monthly fee was significant for him, and so he won.
Oh, and that's what the goal is. You know, we want to figure out a way to where the clients win, and that's the true definition of fiduciary responsibility. When you can look at someone's situation and figure out the best scenario for them, you know, regardless of, you know, what kind of commission you'll be looking at.
Definitely agree. It's definitely to protect the interest of the borrower in all instances, especially with a refinance. So about the investors, are investors pulling out of real estate, or is this still a solid wealth strategy?
Solid all day long.
Hold on. Hold on. Bathsheba, I'll let you start that, and I'll piggyback off of you on that.
Did I hit a field day?
What? Because, you know, the market is going crazy. People are being all nervous about interest rates and all of these things. But I would tell you this year in January, February, and March is a traditionally slow markets. But this year we have broken records in January. We broke records in February. We broke records in March. Like, nobody's stopping buying. Like, the people who are falling for the strategy of the enemy to just kind of like be in fear about their interest rates going up and down and all of that stuff. But there are people out there winning and buying. Not everybody is stopping. So don't fall for the hype. Like, if you're prepared to buy, if you're financially ready to buy, it is your time to purchase a home. Period.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Oh, I got to jump in there. So, you know, and it's funny when you hear about the rates going up and down, that's an uncertainty. Let me give you some certainties. If you're renting an apartment, what is guaranteed to happen when you renew?
It's gonna go up.
It's gonna go
your
up.
rent's going up. So that's a certainty where, you know, and I speak to I call them institutional renters, to where they just keep renting every year, and that rent is going up. That's a certainty. When we look at and then you can, it's always great to, follow a proven method that works. And when we look at, you know, is it a good time to buy, and why are investors buying properties? It's not the individual investors anymore. We've got institutional investors that are purchasing homes on behalf. They're buying as many as they can get. They're changing their portfolio into real estate. And the market has gotten so saturated with institutional buyers. Guess what they're doing now? These institutional buyers are now building subdivisions of houses that they can rent to you. And you know, when you look at it, so, you know, if I was thinking about buying an investment property, would I, you know, what are the thoughts that come to mind? One, you know, you want to have that residual income. That's a plus. But I speak to investors. Every time I speak to an investor, I ask them what are the two strategies. It has to be one or the other. Are you going to buy to hold, or are you going to buy to sell? And if you're going to buy to hold, at that point, you might be buying a property that is below market, and you might invest, a couple $1,000s to make it livable and nice, so that you can, rent it out. And, you know, again, if your rent is $1,000 and you can rent that home out for $2,000, you're making $1,000 a month. Every month you're making $1,000 a month, and you're making more than $1,000 a month, because every time that renter pays your rent payment, you're paying a mortgage payment, which is building more equity in your property. So,
Mhm.
so from an investor standpoint, yes, if you have the wherewithal to create that scenario where you can do a fix and flip, you can. And I even speak to a lot of individuals who say, Alex, I want to invest. I don't want to collect no rent. I don't want to do any of that. Well, they got property managers for you. You can
Yeah.
hire a property manager, let the property manager take care of all of that, and guess what? You'll get your check at the end of the month. So there's a
Mhm.
lot of opportunity. When we think about investors, we might even do another webinar just on investor opportunities. So
Yeah.
investor is a big market in our housing right now.
Yeah, I was definitely going to touch on that about how many different programs that are out right now that gear in and cater to the investment market. So I think there's a lot of opportunities there for investors. Um, Let me ask you just a little bit of touch on investors because I've been asked this question several times myself before too. Do you think that Airbnb is a viable market right now with the way that this economy is to start investing in? If no one's went into it before, do you think this is a good time to start? Because I've had a lot of people ask me that before, and I want to address that.
Well, I'll say I've got some friends that do really well with Airbnb. And
Hmm.
when I hear about their successes, I'm financially envious to where I'm like, you know what? I might want to buy, get into the Airbnb. But it's a
Yeah,
skill set. It's not a scenario. This is where when we look at investors at certain levels, certain financial products are only presented to accredited investors. And what that means is these are investors that are familiar with this particular market and can make those market decisions. I think Airbnb it's a leveled investment because it's based on a couple different factors. You buy an Airbnb in a community, they might limit the community. The community can change their bylaws to where you're not allowed to do Airbnbs anymore. They can, so again, there's outside elements that can make it a great opportunity or bad opportunity. So when individuals ask me, should I uh, get into Airbnb, I tell them to educate yourself on it because I can't answer that for them.
yeah, yeah. I think you should definitely educate yourself on any type of investment if it's gonna because one size is not for everybody, right? Might not work for somebody. Um, Speaking of the future and like investments and America's financial health, where we're headed. What role do you feel like financial literacy is going to play in reclaiming control?
Well, I'm a real advocate on financial literacy because I got children. I've got daughters, and I seen a video a while back where a man was teaching his daughter, and he said, who's going to save you? She said, nobody. I got to save myself. And I think that's one of the things of financial warfare is equipping ourselves and our children with the knowledge of banking, with the knowledge of um, you know there's not. I'll say this: our children are so advanced in every aspect from when we were children, and they have to be. I mean, literally, I'm not embarrassed to say I grew up at a time where we didn't have the internet. We had, I asked my matter of fact, I can ask my daughter right now what an encyclopedia is, and she'll look at me like I'm crazy. That's where you lived in a pretty predominant house if you had a set of your own encyclopedias. Oh my gosh, hey, actually, just a sidebar. I remember doing book reports with my
Yeah,
encyclopedia. so,
same here.
right. So when we look at, the future is, conducive of what we've done in the past. We taught ourselves, they're teaching themselves. So, you know, I would say the best thing that we can do to circumvent the future is, there's, financial actuaries who study the markets. We study the past. Let's look at what happened in the past, look at what is coming in the future so that we can position ourselves accordingly. That's um, how do I feel about financial literacy? I think it's the difference between succeeding and failing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, financial literacy is so important just because that is our way as professionals, right? We're professionals in this industry. That is our way of giving back. Like without the opportunity to share the information that we know, like Brandy, you're letting us use your platform to be able to get to the masses, right? People are going to be able to look at this video and just see exactly, get some tidbits to make their life better. That's
Exactly.
us sowing into the future. You know what I'm saying? That's us doing using the knowledge that we have learned and the knowledge that we have gained through experience to share with others. If each and every one of us do that, then we'll definitely be a better world.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think that where we're headed as far as future advancement with technology, that it is going to be a huge space on the online streaming platforms like we're doing now for people to relay that information and for people to gain financial literacy. And so it's very important. So yeah, the kids definitely for sure. That's where it starts. That they need to know about what interest rates. They need to know about their car insurance coming out of high school. You know what I mean? And all of those things are very important to learn. So, what other practical steps right now could families take to future proof their finances?
Well, I think we touched on it. I'm going to go ahead and do my selfless plug for the night. We've got we've got a product, and this product is called quickfastrefinance.com. Quickfastrefinance.com. And I think, how could, to answer your question, I think when you can control your own finances, you can make decisions short and long term for your families. And I think through, the ability of having access to capital, it puts you in that position. There's mathematical proof that we'll be able to provide to borrowers because when you go to quickfastrefinance.com, what we'll do is, we're going to provide you with the maximum amount of money that we can give you back on a refinance. Now, with that money, for instance, if you've got $50,000 in equity in your home and you have $50,000 in debt on your credit cards and cars, and that $50,000 in debt on credit cards and your car, you're paying $1,000 a month. Well, if we took that same debt and paid it all off, and your mortgage payment only increased $200 a month, now your bottom line, you have an extra $800 in disposable income, and guess what? All your debt is paid off. Your credit is really high to where you can make a true financial benefit for your family. You can, you'll qualify for a business loan. You'll qualify for the ability to do something on a larger scale. So that's how, that's one of the reasons I really advocate for quickfastrefinance.com because it gives you what they're not going to give you. They're not giving you access to capital. They're not giving you loans. They're not giving you, historically, they're not giving you loans because of a zip code. They're not giving you loans because they redlined you. They're not giving you loans for so many various reasons that now you're in a position to give yourself a loan.
Yeah.
And I'll say this, Wesley Snipes said it in one of those movies, you got to bet on yourself.
Yeah.
He might.
I definitely agree with that. And that's you brought up a very big point, Alex, about having access to capital through that refinance. Because if people haven't been paying attention, like I just got an email today about the SBA drawing up, on or just not drying up, but tightening up. on their,
Mhm.
on their requirements as far as getting SBA funding. So if you're trying to invest, if you're trying to start a business venture, if you're trying to buy a business from my suggestion always, buy a business from a boomer that's already viable. That way you know what you're tapping into. All of those things are tightening up. So if you have the access to be able to get the equity out of your home, you need to go over to quick, fast refinance. That bottom line, right? Close it out quick as possible, right? Get that capital. I
Good
agree.
deal.
I agree. So just we're gonna open the floor and just to see if there's a moment for any questions. I'm gonna look across all platforms. I got TikTok going here, and then we got our Zoom here, and then on YouTube, and try to see if there's anybody that has any questions. Does anybody have any questions for our keynote speakers?
So I see one. It's why would I trade debt for debt? Right? And it's just a way you're looking at it, because what's happening is you're not trading debt for debt. What's happening is you're taking the stress from all paying all of those different bill collectors, right? Those all of those credit card bills in your car note, all of the different things or different things that's tapping into your money and trading in for one. So now you're not having to worry about being late on this and paying 22% interest rate on these items, and now you're reducing it from the 22% to, let's say, 9%. That's a significant change. You're going from multiple debts to just one. It's freeing up your time, freeing up your money, and giving you a peace of mind, because your
Yeah,
mortgage is going to be way more flexible than your monthly debt is, than your
yeah.
credit card company is, than your
Hmm.
car company who's going to come and get the car in a couple of days if you don't pay it off or make that payment. It's changing the way you're spending your money. It's more wise to have it in your mortgage than it is to all your credit card companies.
And I think one part of financial literacy, just to add on to that, and that component is that people create income off of debt. This whole country runs on debt. Like, how do you think capitalism work? They're running on debt. So you have to create debt to create income. Like you have to look at it in that aspect. Like you're pulling out money, but what if whatever you invest in brings you back $50,000 in the first 6 months? You know what I mean? Whatever you invested, it just paid off whatever you just loaned, right? So you have to like be. I tell all my clients all the time, be soft to debt. Like that's your friend, actually. You know what I mean? It's just the way that you look at it. We've been taught good debt and bad debt. It's good.
Hmm.
So, any other
I second the
questions?
motion of what you just said. I agree with everything.
Yeah. Yeah, look at it from an investor, but most people look at, and we've been trained that way. We've been trained to look at consumerism. That's what we've been born into. But if you look at the way that capitalism works, they are clearly operating on debt. They taking out lines of credit, you know what I'm saying? Credit cards, loans, everything, like, and just cycling them over and over and over again. Multiple LLCs, just, it just is the rabbit hole
Let me
goes
give
deep, right?
let me give you my let me give you my 60 seconds on debt and equity. Um,
Okay.
when you look at on a lot broader screen, when you think about Wall Street is built on equity. There's two sides. There's debt and there's equity. And think about how much money circulates through Wall Street and the stock markets. It's trillions of dollars that goes through every day. Well, if there's $1 trillion going through the equity markets, there's quadrillion dollars going through the debt markets. When America needs, $1 trillion, they're not going to Wall Street and saying, hey, I need $1 trillion. They're creating debt through treasury bonds. So our debt markets, we've used we from a government standpoint, we utilize the debt markets to make this country where it is today. So the debt markets support it. Matter of fact, your banks that are looking to get a loan from, they're getting their money from the debt market. So obviously, if you want to follow the banks lead, the debt markets, there's different sides to it that we can probably do a seminar on debt markets.
Yeah, you brought up a couple of different good topics that we can bring into the foundation of financial warfare series, the investors, all of those things. So we definitely need to touch on those subjects. Are there any more questions before we ask our speakers to share a final word of wisdom tonight? Any more questions? I'm looking on my TikTok. No questions over there. Okay. So yes, Dr. Bedell and Miss Bathsheba Francis, can each one of you share one final word of wisdom for those that are ready to fight for their financial freedom? They are ready to break free from the chains of financial and spiritual warfare. Can you share something with them?
Look, knowledge is power, and as people who are professionals in the industry, it is our job to set the captives free, and we do that through educating, right? We do that through educating the information that we have and sharing it every single day. What I would tell you is make sure that you, when you're thinking about doing something, it's only so much that we can share in a TikTok. It's only so much information that we can share in a YouTube. We cannot go into your specific, your personal life, because everything is customized, right? Nothing is black and white per se. We need to go ahead and if you want to speak with someone, you can give us a call. You can go to our website, schedule a call with one of us, because what we can do is see your specific situation and go ahead and customize the solution just for you. Speak to a professional in the field. Don't just go and see and get a clip it of what we said earlier, or if you're getting a clip it of what we're saying today. Let's go ahead and give you the full picture when we want to go ahead and dig into your situation and find the best solution for you. We customize solutions.
Yes, totally agree. Dr. Bedell, would you like to say any final words of wisdom or for people that are ready to fight for their financial freedom in warfare?
Well, as I had a couple different things, and as I was listening to Bathsheba, I was like, wow. I mean, she's hitting all the marks. And one thing I will say is that if I can give it any final remark, it reminds me of what my grandmother used to say when she had to make a decision. And I think my grandmother's probably no different than yours. She said, "Let me go pray about it." And I tell you, I didn't realize what that meant until I actually started praying about it. So I'm going to say this: if I can give you any final words on spiritual and financial warfare, is pray about it. Get your strength and your wisdom from a higher power. And it's not. And as smart as I used to think I am, I know when I pray, there's somebody smarter than me that I'm getting. Matter of fact, I'm getting advice from the architect of the world. Yeah, I mean, so from a financial world part, y'all, hey, listen. The matter of fact, after this webinar, I'm gonna go pray some more and watch what I do tomorrow. Okay, so that's my advice. Let's pray more, and from a financial standpoint, you'll realize that your world will change through prayer.
Yes, absolutely agree. I absolutely agree. Prayer is everything and is definitely key to make it through financial warfare and spiritual warfare.
Shameless plug,
Yeah, go ahead.
quickfastrefinance.com.
Yes, again, if you're interested in refinancing your home, please go to www.quickfastrefinance.com. Can get your refinance closed in as little as 7 days. Again, that's that capital and that equity that you were looking for to get started on those business ventures or even to get in your first investment projects. Whatever it is, there's capital there. Okay. Quickfastrefinance.com. Okay. So thank you again, Dr. Bedell. Thank you, Bathsheba, for our
I got a question.
tonight. Yeah.
All right. Hey, how y'all doing? My name is Nate. I first like to thank Dr. Alex for bringing me on the call. Great guy. I was listening to y'all seminar. I really love what y'all was giving out. I'm actually in the vehicle, so I don't know if y'all can hear me well good.
We can hear you
Yeah, we
fine.
can hear you.
All right. So, but right now, I probably know some people that's looking to refinance their homes. So if I know people that are trying to refinance their home and I bring them to y'all, do I get like a referral fee? I'm looking to help build. Like how I'm like a builder. Like I like praying, I like praying
Absolutely.
too, and I'm a builder.
Yes. Dr. Bedell, you want to lead that?
Oh, I'd love to. You know, there's no work without reward. I think, you know, you should definitely be compensated for your efforts. And what I would suggest, even right now, with Soul Community Federal Credit Union, we're in the process of bringing individuals on board, just like yourself, Nate, to where you can refer a client over, or you can just take two steps in the right direction, and you can earn a commission that's going to really benefit your network of individuals. So I would suggest, you know, going to Soul Community Federal Credit Union and let us give you access to the country. We do loans in 50 states, and we do loans in, you know, I was going to say 50 states and 100 cities, but it's more than 100 cities, but we do loans all over America. So you know, that's my suggestion. Don't accept a referral fee when you can, you know, don't accept a slice when you deserve the pie.
Okay, yeah, no, I like that one right there. That sounds better. So yeah, I like what I heard. Thank y'all. I can't wait till y'all next one. I'll back in and join again.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. If you are interested in coming on to be a referral partner, please go to the website and over at Soul, is it soulcfcu.org or soulcommunityfcu.org?
Yes, it's
And
both.
and also just submit an inquiry on that program on referral. So any other questions tonight before we kind of close things out? Any
Uh,
more shameless plugs on anything
I'm
going
moving ahead to see
on?
if I'm still.
What was the question?
Oh, no, it wasn't a question. You froze, and I just wanted I moved around to
Oh,
make sure I wasn't frozen.
oh, okay. No worries, no worries. So yeah, we don't have any more questions or any more plugs tonight. Thank you again so much, Dr. Bedell and Bathsheba, for showing up tonight. Tonight's conversation proves that money is more than numbers. It's a mental, emotional, and spiritual, and also global thing. So this is everyone's call to awareness to action. Don't just survive the system, learn to outsmart it, learn financial literacy. So stick around, network with us, and stay tuned for our upcoming Foundation of Financial Warfare series because we got a lot of more episodes coming up, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely.
Yes, all right.
Thank
I hope everyone has a good night and God bless.
God bless.